everybody. It is Rock Resurgence Radio. My name is Chad, the host, and it's, guess what day it is? Hump Day! Anyways, I got a great band for you today with a couple great songs, and these guys have a fairly big size. I mean, they got 5 albums out, and there's not really a bad one in the bunch. Matter of fact, there was a guy out on Twitter. I can't remember who asked the question. Name a band who, has a catalog of, with no bad albums. And these guys would be right up there. I think I commented Rat is right up there. They don't really have any bad albums. I think he was talking about Cinderella. But I would have to throw this band in there. Their album that came out in 2011 was their weakest of the 5, but still it was decent. And that band is Black and Blue. And you've heard me talk about these guys several times over the course of this show. I feel like they're super, super underrated. I love their first 4 albums. There is not, between the 4 albums, I don't think there's 4 songs that are bad. So, that's pretty damn good. I mean, they're all pretty rockin'. They don't really do a lot of ballads. They had one on their Nasty Nasty album, and I managed to get that to be our prom song one year, even though it was a little faster than an ass grabber. So, maybe you should have picked something different, but I was rallying for them because they were one of my favorite bands, and they still are today. I listen to these guys all the time. And I don't know if I mentioned the name of the band. The name is Black and Blue. And they are freaking awesome. Well, their first album came out in 1984, self-titled debut. And they are still rocking to this day. Matter of fact, I think I got them onto the stage at the last. Well, they didn't have one this past year, but it was Rock Timber in Hinckley, Minnesota. I made a comment on social media on Jamie St. James post, and I said, hey, you should play Rock Timber. And he goes, would love to, or something to that effect. So, of course, I screenshot that. I sent it to Rock Timber, and not even a month later, they're on the bill. So I'm like, fucking A, I think I had something to do with that. I don't know if I actually did, but I'm claiming it because it was pretty cool. Ooh, cool. I got some effects there. Anyways, perfect timing. Anyways, they're most known for their song Hold On to 18, which came out on their very first album. And honestly, that might be them considered a one-hit wonder, even though there is so many good songs. They're from Portland, Oregon. Original members, Jamie St. James, I'm talking about when they first came out. Tommy Thayer, lead guitar. He went on to be in Kiss for many, many years. So you guys may know him. Patrick Young, bass. Pete Holmes, drums. And Jeff Whoop Warner on rhythm guitar. That's the classic lineup. That's the one that kind of did the when they were in their heyday. There were other members in the band as well. Several. I'm not even going to bring them up just because I don't really remember them. But to know that they are still rocking, and the ones that are out there doing it are a lot of the same guys. Jamie St. James is there. Tommy Thayer's not back with him yet, but I think Patrick Young and Pete Holmes are still with him. So 3 out of the 5, I think, are still with him. I don't think Jeff Whoop Warner is with them anymore. And I can look more into that, but it's kind of funny. I've been a fan, and I just did the episode with Cindy on 1987, which you saw probably by now, and we talked about this on the show. When I got the first Black and Blue album, she we lived in a small town in Rolette. Well, she lived in Milo, but she went to school in Rolette. So she was going to Minot. And this is how you had to do things back in the day. You had to tell your friend, hey, the closest town where you can get albums is Minot or Devil's Lake. They didn't have much. So Minot's the actually only place 100 miles away. We're kids. We don't have cars. We don't have a way to get there. But she was going there with her parents for some reason or another. And I said, hey, will you pick up this cassette for me? And she said, of course. And here we talked about this also on the show. This is how we did it. We'd go into the Gulseth pharmacy. They had a paper a rack with all the magazines in it. You had your Hit Parader, your Circus, your Metal Edge, all that stuff. And, sorry to the Gulseths, but I did a lot of reading of it right there because I couldn't afford to buy the things a lot of times. But if he gave us too much grief, we'd come up with $1.50 or whatever it was to get the magazine and get the hell out of there. But this was one of those bands. I read about him in one of those magazines. I can't remember exactly which one, but I read about him and I was like, okay, I want to get this. I had Cindy pick it up. And then it was a Saturday. I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday morning early. I don't know. She thought it might have been a track meet or something because we were both in track back then. And I think that's probably what it was, but I remember sitting on the bus in the parking lot waiting for Cindy to show up to get on the bus, and we were going to, we think, a track meet. And I seen her pull up, and all of a sudden I'm like pumped, I'm like, and I told her, I said, you can listen to it if you want to, blah, blah, blah. So she got to hear it before me, which kind of, sucks. I wanted to be the first one to know these guys and have them in Roulette and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a competition. But she was doing me the favor of getting the album for me. So how could I deny her the satisfaction of checking these guys out first? And I kind of remember, I said, what did you think? She goes, yeah, they're pretty solid. Something to that effect. She wasn't like over the moon, like, oh my God, these guys are fucking amazing. But she said, yeah, they're pretty solid. So I was like, oh God. But man, when I listened to it, the first album, I was hooked from then on. I was a Black and Blue fan. Anyways, we're going to get into the songs I picked. So the first one I picked is off their Nasty Nasty album, and the song I picked is Nasty Nasty. If you check out this beginning of the song, it starts off dun, 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 dun. If that sounds familiar, it probably is because you probably heard it from the boys in Kiss. They ripped that off for a song called Domino. But anyways, Gene Simmons, he even admitted it. He goes, yeah, I loved the beginning of this song and I had to use it. So he used it, and Gene Simmons actually produced a couple albums for Black and Blue back in the day. So, imitation is flattery, man. So he took it, and if you listen to the beginning of Nasty Nasty off their Nasty Nasty album, you hear at the beginning he does that and then he goes, like he spits. And if you listen to Gene Simmons on Domino, it's very similar. So check that out. It's kind of cool. But just a straightforward rock and roll song. Nasty Nasty. I mean, like I said, every one of their albums is good. So it was self-titled, Without Love, Nasty Nasty, In Heat, and then Oh Yeah, I think was the name of the one that came out in 2011. And so the first one, I try to get everybody on board with these guys because they're just so goddamn good. Anyways, I try to get Chris, my former co-host, on to these guys, and he goes, they kind of sound 70s. No, maybe a little bit on the first album, but from then on, after that, no, they didn't. They got a little poppier on the second album, Without Love, and it's very, very, very good. It's hard for me to pick a best album from these guys. It really is, and I may do that. I may do a countdown at some point of, take the five albums and which one I like the best and put them in. I'll rank them up for you. But we got to Nasty Nasty, and it kind of had a little bit. So they're kind of pretty rocking on the first one. Second one was a little bit more poppy. Had a little bit. They had a song called Miss Mystery, Without Love. It kind of just had a few poppier kind of radio friendly songs, and then Nasty Nasty went right back to the nasty, and it was a little grittier, a little grimier, a little not as produced of a sound. And then they did In Heat, which kind of went back to the almost poppy sensation. Anyways, so they kind of did it all. Yeah, you could say there's a tinge of 70s in there, but for the most part, they're a hair band, man. So Nasty Nasty, 1986, that came out. That's my first song. Second song, I'm going to take one off their In Heat album. And In Heat is such, well, say it 100 times, such a good album. The first four are killer. The fifth one, I still haven't listened to that one near as much. I listened to the first four a lot, so I know a lot about those ones. And the second song I picked off In Heat is called Get Wise to the Rise. If you use your imagination, you can kind of figure out what that's all about. Starts off with bass, a really cool riff, kind of goes down, 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 get ready. And then the drum kicks in. Meanwhile, the guitar is going over top of this. I'm going to show you how to do this. And then he kind of, a little bit of music then, because it's so sweet. In the heat. Say yeah, yeah, and then it just kicks in, and it's just fun, groovy, awesome song. Had a shotgun wedding, but I didn't show up. Bum, 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 oh my God, just super catchy. I could listen to Black and Blue every day. I don't, but I could, because I like them that much. They're right up there to me with Motley Crue and Rat and Poison and Warrant, and we all know we're all Warrant lovers on here. Probably all of our favorites, all of our people in our podcast group. Probably if you ask for your favorite hair metal band or hair metal group, pretty much I would say most everybody's going to say Warrant. They were just so good. But I would put Black and Blue, just below that stuff. Matter of fact, I would put them probably in hair bands. They'd be probably in my top 5-ish, 10 for sure, 5 probably. I was just a big fan from the very beginning. Another buddy of mine, Troy Johnson, he was a huge fan of Black and Blue too. We used to jam it out all the time. So, songs I picked for you. I picked Nasty Nasty off the Nasty Nasty album in 1986. And then off of In Heat, which came out in 1988, I picked Get Wise to the Rise. And there's so many songs on either one of these albums that could have been picked. Like I said, the only one ballad they had was I'll Be There For You, which came off the Nasty Nasty album. And it's a good kind of slower song. It's not as epic as some of the the ballads that came out in the day, but it was a good ballad. But they were just better at rocking than doing ballad stuff. And yeah, and I will still go see these guys if I can get a chance. That year that they went to that they played at Rock Timber, I wasn't able to go. I can't remember exactly what came up. Had tickets, everything like that. It's my goddamn partner in crime, Justin, who we went to a lot of my concerts with. He moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I didn't want to go by myself. And I couldn't find anybody else to go, so ended up missing it. So I didn't even get to see Black and Blue. I did happen to see Jamie St. James when he fronted Warrant for a few years. And it was cool because I saw him in a little dinky bar here in Minot, North Dakota. And at this point, it was still the original, but the original has built a new facility, a lot nicer, a little bit bigger. But the old one, I think maybe 350 people was max capacity, and it was pretty packed in there. And he played Hold On to 18. The band did with Jamie St. James, and that was freaking cool. So I kind of just, I got a little taste of Black and Blue live. It wasn't Black and Blue, it was Warrant playing Black and Blue with the singer from Black and Blue. So close, but no cigar. Anyways, I would tell you what's coming up on Friday, but I'm not really sure because I'm shooting it today at some point. Tossing around a couple ideas. There's a couple things on Loudwire that they did, like the top 10 Metallica songs and top 10 Motley Crue songs, and I may pick mine and go up against their list and see what comes up. I don't know. I really don't know what I'm going to do for sure. So stay tuned for Friday's episode. I don't know what it is yet. So if you like what I'm doing, like, subscribe, all that thing. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor, invite 3 friends, whatever you want to do. I appreciate all of you, and I try to comment on all the anytime somebody comments, I try to get on there and comment back, thank you for watching, all that stuff, because I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to keep going until I can't. So until next time, until next Wednesday for another episode of Hump Day Headbangers, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for watching. Let the show begin. Take you on